Hi, my name is Erin Roan Stanfill. I am a seventh grade language arts teacher here at Oregon Trail School District, and today I am talking to you, the tech department, about how Grammarly can support our students. In this presentation, I will begin by establishing a background of students' needs and the Common Core standards. I will also discuss the features of Grammarly and the options for how it can be used. I will have a conversation about academic rigor and how Grammarly can support that, and then I will provide suggestions for how Grammarly could be effectively implemented in our district. So we'll begin by establishing some background. These are some of the Oregon Common Core state standards for writing. So you can see in the bolded sections what the specific skills are. So students are asked to do a number of different types of writing, but these standards I've selected really highlight the things that Grammarly can help support and that students often struggle with. So things like capitalization, punctuation, spelling, using conventions such as commas and apostrophes, that's often challenging for students. Overall command of conventions and establishing and maintaining style are all things that students are expected to do and often struggle to do. On this slide, you can see last year's Oregon statewide assessment data from the general writing category for seventh grade. At Cedar Ridge, which is my school, 19% of students were below grade level standard in this category, 48% were nearing the standard, and 33% were above or meeting the standard. This is very similar to what we saw at a district level. So what we can see is that a lot of students are very close to meeting that grade level standard. We do have the ones that have quite a ways to go, but the majority of students are at least close to being proficient in general writing skills. What this data combined with the state standards shows us is that students are expected to have command by the time they're in middle school of grammar, conventions, spelling, tone, and punctuation. This is no longer when students are learning these skills. Once they're in middle school, they're expected to already know how to do these things. But we also know that the combination of the pandemic and time constraints means that teachers don't always have the time to teach these things explicitly. A lot of teachers tend to focus on the genres of writing and the process of writing rather than these minute details. And like I said on the previous slide, a lot of students are very, very close to proficiency and just are in need of an additional boost. This is where Grammarly can come in and help. So Grammarly is a cloud-based AI program that reviews things like grammar, spelling, conventions, tone, and clarity in writing, and then provides real-time feedback no matter what you're doing. It is installed as an extension on pretty much any device. When you have it installed and it's turned on, you'll see this little green kind of G shape that you can see in my lower right corner. It just pops up on your screen, and that's how you know Grammarly is operating. It can also be used on an educator level to provide more specific global feedback to students. On a more specific level, Grammarly, like I said, offers real-time feedback on any platform. So whether students are writing an essay in Google Docs or creating a presentation in Slides or simply writing an email in Gmail, they have, with this extension, the option of using Grammarly to help them. It offers feedback for grammar, conventions, syntax, citations. So when students are at that upper level writing and they need to know how to cite things, it can check that. It can check plagiarism, and it can also assess tone and style. When you have a premium subscription, Grammarly allows teachers to guide student writing on a more specific level. So teachers can create style guides and utilize some of the other features that are only available with a premium account. Grammarly also has AI features now, so there are generative text options similar to things that we see with ChatGPT. You enter a prompt and it can give you ideas. It can do what you ask it to do. It can also offer suggestions for how to rephrase passages of writing. So that can be really helpful for students if they're having trouble phrasing something or just getting started on an assignment. So how can Grammarly help? Grammarly would allow students in this district to become more aware of their grammar, spelling, and tone throughout the writing process. As we know, not every assignment's focus is on grammar and convention. So I know for myself, a lot of the time I expect students to have correct grammar and conventions, but I'm not assessing that. Additionally, as a teacher, I don't always have time to offer feedback on some of those different things during the writing process. Especially in my bigger classes, I can't be going around and checking every single comma on a student's assignment. So with Grammarly, students don't have to wait for me as a teacher to become available. They're getting the real-time feedback, the same type of feedback I would be offering them, but they're not waiting on me to provide it. In one study in 2022, Grammarly actually enhanced students' confidence as writers and enhanced their confidence in the use of grammar and improved the overall quality of their writing. Many students are just not very confident in how to use grammar and ensuring that they're doing it correctly. Grammarly can help with that. In another study in this 2023, very, very recently, teachers in that study felt that Grammarly had improved their feedback and the efficiency with which they were able to provide that feedback to students. And in another study in 2022, they found that Grammarly provided feedback on those surface level errors like spelling and grammar and things like that. And it allowed teachers to still respond to those types of issues, but also focus on those more global, big picture issues that Grammarly isn't necessarily designed to help with. The big question that always comes up with Grammarly and with other similar programs is, doesn't this count as cheating? Isn't it cheating to have a program that can correct students' grammar and spelling and those other things that Grammarly does in real time? Doesn't that count as plagiarism? And the answer is not necessarily, and that it depends on how we choose to use it as a district. As we talked about, Grammarly will allow students to gain confidence as writers. Students are not confident in their grammar and spelling skills, and often that becomes a barrier for them to even attempt assignments. It's very, very hard for them to get started when they're worried that they're going to misspell a word, and that's distracting them from generating ideas. Additionally, many students who have IEP or 504 plans already have similar accommodations in place, and this would allow those accommodations to be met more efficiently. Similarly, ELD students could really benefit from this program because it would be suggesting what their language should actually look like and helping them learn to recognize that. Grammarly can also be monitored by teachers and by you, the tech department, on a district level to see what tools are being used and how they're being used. So there is the monitoring there to make sure that Grammarly is being used appropriately and responsibly by both staff and students. This page, kind of on the right side of your screen, is the Oregon Trail Academic Integrity Pledge. And you can look at it, you can pause and read through that yourself if you would like. But the really important part of this that I want to highlight is that students are required to sign this at the beginning of the academic year. And some of the things that we really focus on when we talk about this with students is that students should be completing their own work, they should be using their own words, and they should be asking for support when needed. Grammarly doesn't take away from any of these things. Grammarly actually supports students completing their own work. It ensures that they aren't plagiarizing because it can flag when that happens. It ensures that they are choosing the right words, not just throwing whatever out there. So based on our own academic integrity pledge that we have adopted as a district, Grammarly is in alignment with it. So what would it look like to implement this on a district level? We would need to install the Grammarly extension on student Chromebooks and on teacher devices. When this is activated, students can receive feedback on their grammar and spelling and tone across any writing platform, like I mentioned earlier. The generative AI features can help students get started on assignments and prevent them from doing what I like to call panic pasting, where they don't know how to get started. They've been staring at a blank page for a class, maybe two, maybe longer. And then all of a sudden the assignment's due, they have nothing done because they couldn't get started, and they copy and paste whatever they can find on the internet. The generative AI feature would help students get ideas going sooner and prevent them from plagiarizing. Students can also use the plagiarism checker to make sure that they're not plagiarizing on accident and that they have correctly cited their sources, which is a big deal in language arts especially. And like I mentioned, the district can access analytics reports to make sure that Grammarly is being used appropriately by staff and students. So you as a tech department would have the option to monitor its use and make sure that it is being effective. In this presentation, I have established the background for student needs in regard to grammar and writing skills. I've discussed some of the features of Grammarly and how that connects to our standards surrounding academic rigor in this district, and I've made suggestions for implementation. I truly feel that Grammarly has some of the most important features for students and their needs right now, and if it were implemented by the district, I think we would see a positive difference in students' writing and their writing confidence. If you want to look into anything that I've talked about in more detail, here are my sources. Please feel free to take a look at these and see what you think for yourself. I hope you will consider implementing Grammarly for our district. Thank you for listening.